Thank you, Counsel. You may call the witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Commissioners, I call Dudu Bamijai. He's not there. He's not there.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
That's the Quran.
Yes, please.
You can read it to me, sir.
Yeah.
I swear by the Almighty Allah
I swear by the Almighty Allah
that the evidence which I shall give to this commission
that the evidence which I shall give to this commission
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So help me Allah.
Thank you, sir. You can wait for further instruction.
Could you kindly state your names?
My name Dudu Bamijai.
Where do you live, Mr. Jan?
Excuse me?
Where do you live?
At Kirsiring, ma'am.
What work do you do? What work do you do?
Now I'm a retiree, ma'am.
You were in the public service?
Yes, ma'am.
In what position did you retire?
In what position?
Did you retire from?
I retired after serving as ambassador to Washington with concurrency to Canada, Brazil, Mexico, and Venezuela.
All right, sit down. We'll go through.
Okay.
Were you in the public service in July 1994, 22nd July 1994?
Yes, ma'am.
In what position? In what position?
94, I was heading the loans department.
Loans department in which ministry?
Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs.
Well, can you take us through your career briefly? Take us through your career.
Okay.
As briefly as possible, yes.
I have had to take some jottings. Can I
That's
read
fine,
some?
that's fine. To refresh your memory.
Okay. I started working in 1974 on a temporary basis, but I can just zoom through. In 1980, I became senior loans officer. 83, principal loans officer, and national authorizing officer for the European Development Fund. I became also director of finance with oversight on the budget and treasury. 96, chief economist. 97, deputy permanent secretary. 98, permanent secretary. 2003 to 7, ambassador. 2008.
Sorry, 98, permanent secretary. Until when?
Until 2003, December, when I got appointed to the USA, as I mentioned.
Okay.
I left Washington in December 2007. 2008,
2004, where did you go?
I was already in Washington.
You were ambassador in
Yes,
2004 to Washington, did you say?
Washington with concurrent accreditation to Canada and the countries I mentioned.
Until when?
Until end of 2007. In fact, I left Washington December 27th.
Yes, from 2007?
2008 to 12, I was Deputy General at the Bank Sahelo-Saharian, BISIC Bank. I was Deputy General Manager. And 2012 to 13, I was Managing Director of BISIC. After my retirement there, I got appointed as Ambassador to Senegal in 2014 to 15. 2015 to 2016, Ambassador to Qatar. And in 2016, I was appointed Secretary General, which lasted 6 weeks. And finally, Minister of Works, which lasted 5 weeks.
Finally?
2016 as Minister of Works and Infrastructure.
For how long?
5 weeks, ma'am.
That was your last position?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Jan, today we are going to talk about the period when you were in the Ministry of Finance. We'll have to call you back on the GAMTEL issues. But I'm going to show you, to begin with, MS 126, which is a bundle of documents.
GAMTEL.
Including a letter dated 21st November 2001, written by D.B. Jane, Permanent Secretary, Department of State for Finance, to General Manager, Central Bank. From the bundle I have shown you, beginning with that letter,
Yes, please.
you wrote to this general manager. That's your signature, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You wrote to the general manager, Central Bank, with regard to 2 guarantees signed by the Secretary of State for Finance at the time, Mr. Famara Jatta, with regard to a loan or proposed loan in an aggregate amount of 150 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us about this transaction, your role in it, and what happened regarding this matter?
Yes, thank you. I was asked to join 2 central bank officials, Mr. Abla Cham, and Mr. Conte, to travel to London to essentially negotiate and conclude a facility from this so-called Federal Bullion Reserve something, FBRC. I think this arrangement was initiated through a third party, Mr. Musa. So in short, we got to London. We were at the Metropolitan Hotel.
Sorry, I didn't get what you said when you got to London.
When we got to London, they had booked a hotel for us in Metropolitan. And we had a discussion with this gentleman, but we felt uneasy to conclude the facility, the deal. Now, personally, my concern was that even before 2001, we have been receiving offers from some so-called European investment banks and the like, which turned out to be scams. In fact, there was a coinage for that kind of operation, vulture funds. It's where you are offered a facility and they ask you to just sign on your letterhead or whatever. Once you do that, and you may not see the funds 99% of the time, but years down the road, somebody may come after you, making a claim on you, because they would have discounted that instrument in a secondary market, hence the name vulture funds. So we felt we were not we were not convinced, and we were not at ease. So we didn't complete the deal. We decided not to go ahead, although we had been given the instrument of guarantee signed by the minister.
Okay. Now, when you went to London, you said you met with the gentleman. Who did you meet with?
I can't remember their names, ma'am.
You cannot remember?
No.
Yes. Now, when you said it was initiated by Mr. Musa, can you elaborate?
Well, my own belief was that Mr. Musa, they have a company, TK Motors. He was already well known and I think unconnected. So I assume, and because he was also in London with us in some ways, they arranged more or less our going to meet these people. It was not, in other words, a negotiation that was initiated by government through a third party.
Okay. So he was with you in London?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cham, when he gave evidence, mentioned you're seeking advice from the Standard Chartered Bank. Do you recollect
Yes,
that?
yes.
Could you tell us about that?
As I said, we are not like comfortable with the nature of this kind of lending. When you read I have a copy of the guarantee document that the minister had signed. If you don't mind, I can go through what I had done with my copy.
What are you looking at?
At the Ministry of Finance guarantee, there are some clauses there.
Okay.
I'm not, of course, a lawyer, but we have been taught some things in business school. The nature of this guarantee is one whereby, in my view, I think we would have surrendered our sovereignty to these guys. I mean, it would be like you present it and you collect money, or you go after the government. Although the government would not have seen any penny. But the instrument itself is couched in a way that you really cannot wriggle out of it. So before you know it, people are chasing you for monies you didn't see, and they could attach your assets overseas. And the sum total was we were not comfortable to go ahead to bring closure to the deal. Besides that, since I was in the loans as principal loans officer, whatever, our debt stock was already becoming a burden. So we would rather go for soft money, like narrow our relationship with the multilateral donors and bilateral donors, who would usually give you grants, and the multilateral donors will give you what we call credits, which is a soft loan you pay over 25, 30 years with no interest on their service charge. Okay. So this kind of deal was like not favorable.
Okay. We understand. You were telling us about Standard Chartered Bank. Did you reach out to the bank?
Yes, we had a brief meeting with them, and of course they also like confirmed our thinking that this kind of deal is really not straightforward. Yeah.
Now you, as I mentioned, the letter of the 21st November, well, everything is signed 21st November, but the letter that you specifically signed,
sorry?
In the letter of 21st November, you were forwarding the instruments, the draft guarantees to Central Bank.
Yes.
And of course, the guarantee was on the Department of State for Finance letterhead. Who drafted these guarantees, and how did you come by them?
Yeah. Who drafted this guarantee? This looks like legal language, certainly not from the loans unit, ma'am.
Did the people you call the so-called Federal Billion Reserve Corporation send you this document?
It could well have come from them. Okay. Yes, I think because there were some correspondence, I think subsequent to this.
You can look at the documents. There are correspondence addressed to yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, there was correspondence addressed to me by one reported President Hugh something on this loan itself.
So you received the documents from them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'll just move on to another issue. Would you like to ask any questions on this?
One, and it's also relevant to the Gamtel contract. Even if the other party drafts the document, in terms of the government, do you give a chance to the legal advisor or the Solicitor General to voice an opinion on the documents before final signing?
The way I was trained, if it had started like ab initio through the normal process, it's like it's gospel truth that we must go through the Justice Ministry. I mean, we are not the competent authority to get involved in those things. They not only draft, but they also guide and advise. And as far as I can recall, we've had a very good professional relationship with the Justice Ministry all those years.
So at the time of submission and traveling to London with this, there was no opinion from the legal advisor?
No,
of
not
the government?
not that I remember.
The Solicitor General had not seen it?
This was like bundling, what we call bundling.
Thank you.
Sorry. Did you say Musa
Yes.
initiated
Yes.
this potential loan of $150 million?
Yes, sir.
How did he initiate it?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know.
But what we know that they had a presence with the government within the TK Motors group. If you remember, they also had this Red Air something flight as well. So I guess this was one of the activities they were engaged in, maybe at the higher level, but certainly not at our level.
Did he travel with you or did you meet him there?
We met him there.
You met him there?
Yes.
He was at the hotel or at the airport to receive you?
Now, the airport side, I cannot confirm now, honestly, but he was there and they arranged the hotel.
Where did you meet him?
This was somewhere in
A long time.
Metropolitan Hotel also. Metropolitan Hotel.
Okay. It doesn't matter. You met him there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Secretary, from your own narrative from 1998 to 2003,
Permanent Secretary?
Minister of Finance,
No, that was in 98, ma'am.
1998 to
98.
2003.
Yes, ma'am.
During the period you were Permanent Secretary, your ministry withdrew substantial sums of money signed for by Honorable Farmer El Jata as SOS for Finance and Economic Affairs from an account at Central Bank. And from the evidence we have, this account was called the 3M account, from at least the letters that emanated from your ministry as well. That is how the account was referred to. I will show you this folder, MS-114, and we have over 20 withdrawals by your ministry from this account.
By?
Your minister.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Samara El Jata at the time from that account. Samara Jata is dead, isn't he?
He's passed away, yes, ma'am. Quite some time.
We have, for convenience, I have flagged all the transactions which he signed.
Okay, the ones
Yes.
flagged.
Yes. You can, they're flagged on the side, yes, and you can look at a couple, then I have some questions for you.
Okay, this is acquisition of used military trucks.
Well, there are so many,
okay.
many transactions, so many, all of them.
All these ones you flagged?
All of them, yes.
Okay, request for transfer. Starting with that one.
Did you have a chance to look at these transactions with the investigator?
No, I didn't see this file. Okay. I wasn't shown this.
Okay. All right, then, because I don't want you to be blindsided, I would like you to take your time and go through the transactions so that you could be of better assistance to this commission. So we will reschedule another day when you will come, and you will talk about these transactions, what you know about them, as well as the Gamtel matters, the disbursements from the sale of Gamtel shares to the extent that it affected the embassy in Washington, D.C. during your tenure as ambassador when you come back.
Okay.
All right. I will make sure these transactions are copied so that you can have a look at them.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
But
We'll reschedule, Mr. Jain. Can you collect the folder, please?
these are yours too.
Yes. Could you hand over the exhibit? Thank you.
Okay, these are all yours.
Ours are marked in red. We will invite you next week. We will call you and tell you the date next week.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime.
I call Mr. Banding Silla of Gamtel.
Thank you.
Just read up to next.
Okay.
I swear by the Almighty Allah
I swear by the Almighty Allah
that the evidence which I shall give to this commission
that the evidence that I shall give to this commission
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So, but help me, Allah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And wait for further instructions.
Thank you.
Could you tell the commission your name?
My name's Banding Silla.
Where do you live, Mr. Silla?
I live at Lamin Daranka in Kombonot, West Coast region.
What work do you do?
I'm a civil servant working for Gamtel.
You're working for Gamtel?
Yes, please.
Are you a civil servant? Gamtel
Well,
employees are not civil servants, Mr. Silla.
Public enterprises,
You're a public officer.
Public
a
officer.
public servant,
Yes.
if you like. All right, would you like to take a seat, please?
Thank you.
Mr. Silla, how long have you worked for Gamtel?
Sorry?
How long have you worked for Gamtel?
I'll be 30 years this coming March.
30 years.
30 years, yes, ma. I started work in 1988, March 1988.
March 1983.
Yes, please.
Your present position is finance. What is your
I'm-
present position?
I'm the Chief Finance Officer
How long have you been Chief Finance Officer?
since June 2011.
Before that, what position did you hold?
Just a minute. Before that, I was the finance director from 2007 to 2011.
As finance director, did you report to anyone?
I reported the managing director.
You were still head of finance when you were finance director?
Yes.
Okay.
And then from 2003 to 2006, I was the senior finance manager at Gamcel. I was redeployed from Gamcel in 2004 to go to Gamcel to head of the finance department there. From 1996 to 2003, I was management accountant at Gamcel. And then 1988 to 1995, I was an audit clerk, senior audit clerk for that matter.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I think that will do.
Yeah.
Mr. Silla, you've been summoned in relation...
Sir, we are not quite clear now. What is your position right now?
Now,
Yes.
I'm the Chief Finance Officer.
Chief Finance
Chief Finance Officer.
Officer.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
As Chief Finance Officer, you are head of the Finance Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And as Director of Finance from 2007 to 2011, you are also head of the Finance Department.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically from 2007 to date, you've been
Right.
head of the Finance Department.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Silla, you've been summoned here in relation to the finances of Gamtel,
Yes, ma'am.
and particularly the proceeds of the various contracts that
Right.
Gamtel entered into during the period on the review. Now, Gamtel signed a contract with an operator called Global Voice Group SA
Right.
in 2006.
Yes.
Subsequently, the Gambia government, as shareholders of Gamcel, sold 50% of the shares
Right.
of Gamcel to a company called Spectrum.
Right.
Okay, and the Gateway management then moved from Global to Orators, a company called Orators.
Orators.
Orators, that's
Yes.
it, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then it moved to
System
Tel
one.
International.
I think it was the system one.
It was to Tel
after Spectrum,
Incorporated.
Yeah. Then,
Then thereafter to System 1.
yes.
Thereafter to MGI.
MGI.
Yes. Mr. Silla, we would like you to assist the Commission in understanding at least the financial part of all these transactions.
Right.
So if we can start with Global
Global Voice.
and tell us all the revenues that were generated by the Gateway during the period that it was managed by these companies.
Okay.
And then we will come to Spectrum, the management of Spectrum itself.
Okay.
Okay? The management of Gamtel by Spectrum itself.
Okay.
Did you prepare a report for us as requested?
Yes, I did.
You have?
Yeah.
And you have a summary of the...
Yes, I have the summary.
You have a summary?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what does your report constitute or comprise?
Well, I have a summary, as I said, and then also I have the supporting documents to that summary. If you would allow me, Ma, I would just try to explain how it operates. At the finance, we are at the receiving end, and that is we are notified when the monies from the Gateway are coming to Gamtel. Because what happened is we have a department that specializes in managing international operations. We have a department of international operations.
Department of International Operations.
Yes. They are the ones that are responsible for the management of the international traffic. So they are the ones that deal directly with whoever is managing the gateway. They are at the forefront and they are responsible for everything. Once they have complete their processes and establish the net revenue that is due to Gamtel, then we at the finance will be notified to say we are expecting this amount of money to be paid to Gamtel. And then we will take it off from there to monitor that payment through our bank account. So the statement that I have here are the net revenues that are paid into Gamtel's account. In 2006, as you rightly said...
just before you start,
right.
Could you just tell me, the Department of International Operations,
yes,
who headed those departments from 2006 to 2017? Can you tell us that?
Well, I know when the Global was coming in, there was Mr. Usman Jai, Usman Jai, who was the head of the international operations at the time. So he was in all along up to when Spectrum came in. And then his service was terminated when Spectrum took over. And then it was managed exclusively by Spectrum. After Spectrum left, then there was an interim management at the time when after Spectrum left. That was around October, November. An interim management was constituted from Gamtel. And then there was the CTO, which was one Ibusise.
What is CTO?
Chief Technical Officer, acting for that in an acting capacity. So directly that portfolio was under his supervision until the next gatekeeper came in, when they have their own exclusive management of the gateway. I can't remember who was in at the time when the new gateway keeper came after Spectrum. I can't recall offhand. No, but I know at one point Tijan Jallo was also there as Director of International Operations. After he left, and then it was under the supervision of one Mr. Malam Bas as the Deputy Managing Director, responsible for international operation matters. Recently, just about a couple of weeks ago, one Keba Bojang was reinstated. He was with us, but his service was terminated. Now he's reinstated and then taken to that Department of Operations.
Thank you. Our mandate is up to January 2017, so that is fine.
Right.
So let's go back to your report.
Right.
Yes, if you can.
From the summary I have, as I said, Global Voice came in 2006. But prior to that, they were one of the carriers that terminates calls into the Gambia. And for the whole of 2006, the revenue summary I have were paid in by Global Voice up to end of December 2006. Even though if you look at their contract, the contract was signed in 2006, I think in October or so, 5th of October, if I remember from the contract that was signed. But effectively, they started as a gateway manager, I think from 1st of January 2007. Even though the traffic that they terminated in 2006, the first payment came in January 2007 under that particular contract.
Okay.
Right. So the summary also, I break it into components because the revenues are paid as they are collected. Usually, there is an agreement between the gatekeeper and other operators that they deal with, settlement dates. So those settlement dates, they normally agree as to when, payments will be made to Gamtel. So you will see in a particular month, sometime you will see 3 different payments that will come, because as they receive, and then they will pay Gamtel's share into the account. So those ones, are also highlighted for ease of reference. If you want to check against the credit advices, then you will be able to see as they come in. And then after that, I made a global summary for monthly collection, just to see how much is collected in each month. So the 2006, the total collected was 10,812,595.92. But individually, we have figures. I don't know whether I should go through them individually.
No. On that, with regard to that figure, is
Right.
all that money attributable to Global Voice
Yes.
management of the gateway?
Yes.
All the revenue?
All the revenue for that, yes.
Okay. From October to?
No, I'm sorry. From October, it was, the amounts received was 203,468.10 cents. That was the first payment that came in, because it moves from, they started in December. And then, as I said, the payments are done 1 month in arrears.
Okay.
So it was paid in 2007.
All right, go ahead. We
So
will look at the document.
the total revenue that was paid into Gamtel account for 2007 was $10,812,595.92. That was for the whole of 2007, and then it was all paid by Global Voice. Then 2007 was under Global Voice. 2008 was when Spectrum came in, and then it was managed by an operator called Oratos. From February 2008, we started receiving funds into our account up to October 2008. And the total funds received was $7,875,358.
So Oratos did pay into, for what period? Can you tell us the period?
The period was from February 2008
To when?
to October 2008.
Okay.
Then came in, that was when the contract was terminated. And then, as I said, there was an interim intervention. And that was when Global Voice was supporting in managing the transition. So there are some traffic that were generated on that. And then payments were made by Global Voice.
So you are saying that System 1 did not immediately take over?
No.
When the contract
the contract got terminated, an interim management was put in place. That was myself as an acting CFO. Then the acting CEO was the late for the CC. And then you have the acting CTO, which was Ibu Sise. So in that, during that period, because Spectrum was managing it, and then the system was under their control. When they left, they left the keys. These are the lancing keys to the sub switches was also under their control. So an intervention was requested, because at that time, terminating international calls without opening the switches will not be possible. I think that was the time when some engineers were invited into the country. I think they came from Spain to come and assist Gamtel, to manage the system, that is, unlock the system so that, traffic will continue flowing. So during that period, this interim management was put in place. We were in charge, I think, up to end of, around last few weeks of December, I think the last week of December, when, a new management was appointed. That was Mr. Katim Toure was reinstated to take over, and then our interim management then ceased. So from there, then that was when System 1 came in from 2009 to manage the gateway. And then the total revenue that we are collected and paid to Gamtel for the whole of 2009, from January 2009 to December 2009, was 8,653,204.53 cents from System 1. Then it continues in 2010. They were still managing the gateway. And the total revenue paid to Gamtel inflows was 12,770,574.05 cents.
Dollars.
Yes, right. And then it continues into 2011. Their contract, the payments that were made was up to March 2011 from System 1. And that amounts to 3,201,662.53 cents. Then came in a new gateway keeper, which is TEL. TEL's inflow started from April 2011 right through to December 2011 for that year, and the collection was 66,216,200.62 cents dollars.
Did you say 66 or 6?
6 million.
6 million. Okay.
Yes, 6,216,200.62 cents dollars. Then TEL continues into 2012. The year 2012 was also under their management. For the year 2012, the total amount paid to Gamtel was $7,449,284. Then TEL continues into 2013 up to September 2013. That was the last time we received payment from them. The whole of that period, the amount was $4,976,803. And thereafter, then that was when MGI came in. And then since then, we have not received funds from them, even though we have other services that they have paid for, like the E1s, the cost of the E1s that they use, the links from Gamtel. And then there were also co-location arrangements with Gamtel. That is the ACE building that is at Bruceby. There is a room that was, being used by them, and they were paying some monies for use of that space to Gamtel.
That by way of rental.
Right.
That is the only revenue you receive from.
Yeah, and then there was another one they call number translation. These are services not coming from the traffic. These are services that are being paid for.
So basically, as far as the traffic revenue was concerned, since September 2013, Gamtel did not receive any revenue?
No.
Until, of course 2017.
Until recently in July, when Gamtel was given the responsibility to manage the gateway.
All right, thank you. Could you put your summary? Is that the end of your summary?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you put your summary together with the documents, supporting documents? You can leave it in the file and hand over the file. Thank you. Could you collect the file? All these accounts were prepared by yourself?
No. The other supporting documents are from the Department of International Operations. As I said, they are the ones who manages this information. They pass it on to us when they complete the reconciliation with the other carriers, and then
Yes.
They give us this information because what normally happens is when we are entering this information in our books of accounts, we don't use the revenues that are paid. Our policy is that we use, the accrual concept, and that we have to see what are the in payments and also what are the out payments, because the two, they use that and then do the reconciliation in order to establish what the net revenue is.
Okay, you've prepared these summaries, which one of them is marked. Could you just confirm, I think I have an unmarked copy. Can you just confirm that this unmarked copy is the same as the one you have marked?
Right.
So that, or you have written on, so that I tender the clean copy. And could you sign the summaries? You prepared the summaries, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you sign this summary? Is it the same document?
Yeah.
Yes, could you sign it, please?
Yes, that is it.
Yes. Could you sign them and then date them today?
This one?
The summaries, yes.
It did. The top page was sufficient, yes. Okay, you've done it already. That's fine. We're going to use this one.
Just sign the top page.
The
Is
top
it the
page.
same? Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted receipts from gateway keepers of Gamtel International Gateway, or the Gambia International Gateway, and supporting documents presented by this witness. You have to compare it with
Gamtel folder of statements of account, receivables, and net revenue as they relate to the International Gateway Management for the period 2006 to 2013, admitted map SC 59. Yeah.
Mr. Silla, during the period that Spectrum, International Investment Holdings,
Yes.
was in charge of the management of Gamtel, did they make any investments?
Did they? Sorry?
Did they make any investments?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware. When they came in, they found Global Voice on the ground, and what I remember was that Global Voice made some investment in terms of soft switches, and then when they came, they continue using those soft switches. But during that period, have not seen any investment being made by Spectrum.
Apart from the International Gateway,
Right.
they purchased the shares actually in both companies.
Right.
Now, did they make any investments in Gamtel or Gamcel?
No, I'm not aware. I'm not aware because when they came in, they have a management team called Datacon. Datacon came in and then they were sort of trying to mobilize funds. During that period, they
Mobilize funds
locally because they were preparing their business plan and then started going around the banks, to talk to them to see how they can mobilize funds to, do some investment. But unfortunately, nothing materialized on that period. And then until their departure, I'm not aware of any investment being made by them into Gamtel Gamcel.
They were trying to raise loans locally.
Locally.
All right. Let's move to TEL International.
Right.
Did TEL International make any investments?
TEL, I have seen one correspondence which they said they bought some such switches. And then, I cannot confirm that. Maybe, the international operations will confirm that. But I saw one which they indicated that they bought some such switches and they were claiming for a refund.
They were?
Claiming for a refund. And that refund, that's it here. The letter was addressed to one Dr. Njoguba, Honorable Secretary General and Head of Civil Service, Office of the President. During the migration phase to the new...
Wait, Mr. Silla. What letter is that? Who wrote the letter?
This was from TEL.
From TEL?
Yes.
To Njoguba?
Yes.
And it was copied to Gamtel?
No, it was not copied to Gamtel. This was sent, it was received at the Office of the President, and then they were requesting for approval to recover some costs that they have incurred from the traffic.
Okay.
And they were seeking for approval.
Okay.
And that approval, I think this must be Mr. Bass' signature. I don't know his signature, but it was said approved for the deduction from Gamtel's payment.
Okay.
Yes. So this...
Can I have a look at the letter, yes? What do you want to tell us about this letter?
Sorry?
What do you want to tell the Commission about this letter?
Well, we found this in one of the folders, And then because we were going to relate it against those documents that I passed to see whether the deductions were made from our revenue. And then, subsequently it was.
The deductions were made from your revenue?
The recoveries were made. In that particular month that is asked for the recoveries to be made, it was done. And the amount was 118,827.33 cents, that is dollars.
So you're saying TEL said they made an investment and wanted to be refunded for that investment,
right,
by buying switches. Were you able to verify that they actually bought switches?
Well, not to my knowledge. We at finance, we didn't verify this to see that these such switches were bought. But as I said, possibly the Director of International Operations that deals directly in managing the traffic, and they are responsible for these things, may know about this. But I know for certain the amounts were recovered from our share of the revenue.
Was this before the revenue was diverted to the Office of the President or after?
No, before. When TEL was managing it, yes.
Ordinarily, within such a request for refund, shouldn't it have come to GAMTEL instead of the Office of the President?
What happened was because during the management of TEL, we had encountered series of issues with them. Because they are gatekeepers, and then but like they normally have bilateral meetings with GAMTEL. From time to time they come down and then have bilateral meetings. So during that process, sometimes we encounter some issues. When we seek for clarification on certain issues, certain matters, it was always difficult. And I remember there was a particular meeting when things were not very good, and I think they reported the matter to the Office of the President that we were not cooperating with them. And there was a meeting that was summoned in the Office of the President. I wasn't at that meeting, but some GAMTEL representatives were there. And then I understood this, from that meeting they said GAMTEL and TEL should not sit in one meeting at GAMTEL House. If there is going to be any future meetings, it should be coordinated by PURA. So PURA should coordinate those meetings, and then it should be done at PURA's office. So
it should be done at PURA's office.
Yes.
Okay.
So few of those meetings were held there, and because of that, I think that's why this letter was sent to OP.
Can you kindly collect the letter? But before the meeting shifted to PURA,
yes.
When you say they, who actually were you meeting with? Who was representing TEL when you met?
TEL, they are not consistent. At times, the head of the delegation is always Rahid Sharara.
Rahid Sharara.
Rahid, yes.
R-A-H-I-D.
Yes. He is always, at times, the head of the delegation. And then, periodically they will agree with GAMTEL when they will hold bilateral meetings to come and discuss. And not only GAMTEL, when they are in town, they meet other operators as well, to discuss issues about
Apart from Rahid Sharara, can you name the members of the delegations you have met with?
Well, I can't remember. I can't remember.
All right, can I have that letter? Okay. I'll just hold on to it in case you have any other document, and I'll tender them together.
Okay.
Did you ever meet with one Mr. Muhammad Bazi during these discussions with TEL?
No.
Okay. Let's move to MGI.
Right.
Did MGI make any investments in Gamtel?
I'm not aware. When MGI was coming, apparently I was away in the UK doing my master's. I left the Gambia in 2013, September 2013, and then I was away for 1 year. I returned in the country September 2014, and then I proceeded on leave. Actively, I came to the office.
But Mr. Silla, you are here in your capacity as Chief Finance Officer.
Yes.
From your financial records,
Yes.
did MGI make any investments in Gamtel?
No, ma. No.
Are you sure about this? Because you're
No.
sure?
No.
Okay.
From our records, we have no information that MGI made investment in Gamtel.
I ask you this question because I have come across, not yet tendered, but I have, the people will be called in due course. I have come across information which suggests that MGI claims to have invested $26 million in Gamtel.
In
the way
Gamtel?
of, yes, in the way of projects.
Not in our books of account.
Okay. Did you deal with, who represented MGI? Did you deal with MGI in this? Did you have bilateral meetings with MGI?
Have never attended such meetings.
You've never attended such meeting?
Never.
All right. Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted a document from TEL addressed to Dr. Njoguba, SOS, Honorable Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, dated 15th October 2012, with regard to a claim for new soft switches, equipment and accessories deployed at Gamtel.
Letter from TEL International Inc. to Dr. Njoguba, Secretary General, dated 15th October 2012, relating to equipment deployed at Gamtel and requesting reimbursement. Admitted mark SC 60.
Mr. Silla, just a question in relation to this spectrum acquisition of 50% stake in Gamtel.
Right.
Was there any valuation?
Well, there was an evaluation, but when the evaluation was done, I don't know whether it was specific for this particular purpose. There was, in 2007, the Gambia Divestiture Agency conducted evaluation on Gamtel. And then this was paid for by Gamtel and Gamcel. But I don't know, the reason why that valuation was done.
Do you have a report of the valuation?
The final report, no. I came with a letter. This letter was the 3rd of October, right? The first letter that I have here was dated 27 September 2007. It was from Department of State for Finance and Economic Affairs. And then the author was Mod A.K. Seka for Permanent Secretary, signed by Mr. Seka, and it was addressed to the Chief Executive Gambia Divestiture Agency, number 80 AAU.
That's fine. What was the purpose of the letter?
It read, the heading was Gamtel Valuation Report. We acknowledge receipt of the missive, reference PKF CL /0207/2007, dated 25th July 2007 from PKF Consulting Limited on the above mentioned. This Department of State is hereby granting approval for the final report to be issued as well as the final fee note, counting on your usual support and cooperation. This valuation was done by PKF in collaboration with a partner from Kenya.
From Kenya?
Kenya, yes. Because when the request was made for Gamtel to be valued, it was tendered, and they happened to be the winners of that tender.
Did you see the valuation report?
No, I haven't seen the final report, no.
Do you know what Gamtel was valued for?
No, I don't know.
It was not shared with you?
No.
Okay, can we have the letter? If you don't have another copy, we'll make a copy available for you. Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't apply to have it. Yeah. You have one already. Yeah. I wouldn't apply to have it admitted now. We'll carry out further investigations on the letter. I have no further questions for Mr. Singh.
Mr. Silla?
Yes,
just to get a little bit more insight into when Spectrum was sold, the 50% shares, because when Spectrum took over, they took over management of Gamtel.
Right.
What happened to you at that point? Because from what I see, you were the director of finance.
Right.
Yes. So what happened?
Well, when they took over, they came with their own management team.
Yes.
And that management team, the head of finance was one Mr. Cyril Rombol. He's the chief finance officer. I, report to him because he automatically became the head of the department. Because they found me as a director, they couldn't do much. They have to leave me at that position. But he was the head of the department then for that period.
Okay. Going further, we also heard that the 50% shares were sold for 30 million, something like that, dollars. Yes.
Right.
Do you have any idea if the proceeds were received, whether they paid government for that?
No, I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I have no idea about that. Nothing was paid to Gamtel. As far as our books of accounts are concerned, we have not received anything, and I don't know how that money was paid and to whom. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Right. I'll go further now to when Spectrum were instructed to leave within 72 hours. I think from what we heard, one of the agreements or conclusions reached was that the government had to give them some money for taking over back the shares. Do you know roughly how much had to be paid? Because we see points where they were trying to raise funds from Trust Bank.
Well, I remember we were instructed to take a facility from Trust Bank and $5 million as part payment towards the purchase, repurchase of those shares from Spectrum for Gambia government. And that was contracted by Gamtel with the Trust Bank, but the money, we never paid for it, because when the request came, we had a meeting with one Ibrahim Kamara, who came to the office, requesting that, the government want Gamtel to take a loan from Trust Bank and then, will be refunded. But in that meeting, what was said was that we at Gamtel, we are just operational managers.
Yes.
We cannot go into those arrangements and then without, the shareholder being aware. So if anything, Ministry of Finance, they should go to the Ministry of Finance and then, tell them this issue, because we cannot come in and then do anything without, being directed to do or, asked to do. So after that meeting, then there was a day we received a letter from Gamtel, from Ministry of Finance, instructing Gamtel to contract a facility from Trust Bank, which was going to be guaranteed by Social Security and Finance Corporation. So that loan was negotiated, approval was given based on the processes we took. The board of directors were informed, a board paper was made, and then a resolution was signed for Gamtel to contract that loan. And then the loan was contracted, but we never paid for that money, because from the start we told them financially we are not in that position to pay for anything on that, because our cash flow wasn't good. We cannot pay for it. That was what management told even the Ministry of Finance. The other administrative charges, even we said we cannot accommodate it. Ministry of Finance have to seek clearance on that, maybe to seek for waiver from Central Bank, but nothing was in court as far as I'm concerned. My knowledge is aware from Gamtel. Finally, the Ministry of Finance paid off that loan.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Just a final question. This is just more for more understanding. We received information that when it comes to monitoring of the international gateway,
right.
We understood that when Spectrum were leaving, they took equipment which Gamtel used to use to I guess determine the amount of traffic vis-a-vis what the supplier would also pay into their own account. But we understand that when Spectrum were leaving, these equipment were transferred to or sent to Lebanon. So is that the case? Because then, from why we are asking is that because they said later on it was at the discretion of the supplier, that's MGI or TEL, to just credit the account with whatever they wanted when it comes to the international gateway.
Well, I'm not aware of the removal of the equipment. I cannot confirm that. What I know, when Spectrum left, System 1 took over.
Yes.
And then I saw some correspondence where, they claim from, that the equipment that they were using, if System 1 was going to, inherit them, they have to sign an MOU as to how, whatever they have, it costs them to be reimbursed on that.
Okay.
But like the removal of those things, I'm not aware. In fact, at one point, I think it ended up being a legal issue. And, through that process, I think I have seen a document where the Ministry of Justice was engaged, to advise Gamtel as to, what position Gamtel was, going to take from one of the documents which I have seen.
Okay.
And, but like the removal of the equipment, I'm not clear on that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the bigger issue here is Gamtel able to now, or was it able to during MDI's management, determine that it is getting a fair share of the revenue based on traffic? Are you able to monitor?
The traffic?
Yeah, how much comes in and determine that you are getting what you should get?
You mean from MGI's time?
Yes, from MGI.
No, I'm not aware of that.
You are not,
no.
Now the gateway is being managed by Gamtel itself.
Right.
How do you fare without MGI? Is that a case of we really never needed MGI? What value was it having MGI?
Well, as I said, finance, we are not directly involved in the traffic management. We rely solely on the Department of International Operations because they are always at the forefront in managing traffic. So I wouldn't know how they are feeling at the moment, and then whether they have challenges, I could say. I cannot confirm that, but I know for one reason, the issue of this SIM boxing is a big challenge. Because the fraud detection system, which normally helps them to detect, these fraudulent systems, termination of traffic, is always a challenge. Because when we took over, there was a meeting that was organized between Gamtel and other security services to assist Gamtel in trying to trace illegal termination through SIM boxing.
So let me just interrupt there. When you see it, you are not part of the arrangement. That's part of the international operations unit.
Right.
But you do observe the trends.
Right.
If there is a drop in revenue, how is it explained to you? Do you just relegate it to maybe somebody is terminating somewhere? How are you able to explain the drops and the gains, the peaks and the troughs?
So if one have to explain that, one has to relate it to what MGI was doing before, because that information was not available to us to say this is what MGI was collecting, and now this is what we are doing. So how can we relate that to MGI's operations? That information is not available to Gamtel to do that. So, basically when we took over, it's like we are starting afresh to see how we, engage other operators from outside the country to collaborate with them for termination of contract. Because every operator, every gatekeeper normally have to, have counterpart operators outside who you deal with in transporting traffic into the country or out of the country.
And from your observations,
right,
since you took over,
right,
has the revenue been constant, or has it gone down? Has it gone up?
Well, it fluctuates. It fluctuates because from month to month, what we normally get, is not consistent. It depends on the volume of traffic that comes into the country and then, what leaves the country.
But you are not able to detect or monitor how much traffic?
No.
So the government just gets what it gets?
Well, so far, yes, because there is no monitoring system that you can say, it is, detecting either fraud or, preventing illegal termination.
But that's a very bad situation you find yourself in.
I agree.
So are you supporting the case that you may need another gateway manager eventually with the right equipment to detect, monitor, and increase revenue?
From my own perspective, I believe if we have the right system in place, what we would need possibly is a technical support. A technical support in the sense, who have that, experience to give Gamtel that support. But the systems have to be in place.
Do you have those equipment?
No.
You don't have the equipment or the know-how?
No, the know-how might be there, but it goes with, other issues like the anti-fraud system. Because if that is not in place, you will not be able to monitor what other operators are doing, either in terms of illegally terminating into your country or into your network. You will not be able to detect that. If you have that in place, then that would deter illegal termination.
Okay. One final question.
Right.
With the departure of MDI,
right,
do you now have the financial muscle, to buy the right equipment you need, and then you will struggle with the technical or innovative aspects?
No, we don't.
Are you able to secure or procure those needed equipment?
No.
You don't?
No, we don't have that muscle.
Thank you.
Mr. Silla, sorry, I had omitted that before. During Spectrum's time, I'm going back to Spectrum's time.
Right.
Because they were responsible again for management of Gamcel. Do you know or are you aware of if dividends were paid to them or management fees to sister companies for supplies or things like that?
I'm not aware of dividend being paid to them, but I know, their management fees were paid. That is for the management team that was on the ground. Those 3 C's, I would say Datacon.
Yes.
Yes. Datacon, they were paid management fees, yes.
Okay. And that's the only one, apart from Datacom? That's the only fees that were paid to them?
Yes, so far that's what I know from,
that's what you recall.
From our records, yes. They were being paid management fees, yes.
All right, thank you.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just one issue. Could you compile the management fees paid to the Datacom, the management team, during the period of the contract?
Okay.
And just submit it to the Secretariat.
All right.
Very well, we rise. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock.